Guys, this is just Martin91. Today I'm going to be giving you a rundown of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. I just saw it last night and I was actually quite amazed by it. Now here's the thing there. So I was skeptical when I went in. I had my hopes high. Guardians 1 is one of my favorite MCU entries of all time. And if you guys followed me in the beginning at all, Doctor Strange was my first movie review. I am a big MCU fan. I have to say that this one was quite different from the other ones. First of all, it was different than any of the other MCU movies, and they have a good reputation of making things unique, even this deep into the franchise. It's like the 15th movie, and it's even different from the first one in its own sense. Now, I'll elaborate on that in a second. Basically, the reviews and all that I saw didn't spoil anything, and that was good, but it did say stuff about the tone of the movie and what the focus was on in the movie. It hinted a lot of aspects to it that I felt like, could be good or bad. So while I went in, I was going to judge this movie by the first one. And after seeing all those, I was trying to abandon that notion. Like, I knew that I was returning, I was going to see these amazing characters again, which is true. But the setup of it was so much grittier in its own sense. It has, and not even like dark, like literally dark. Like, there's a lot of colorful shots. There's a lot of great sequences. It's so elaborated. It's so expanded. This world is so amazingly just. It's so well done. I was amazed. I saw it in IMAX 3D last night, and I have to say I was blown away. In any case, okay, moving on. It is different from the first one in a sense that I felt like personally, and everybody has their own opinions, I guess, that the first one, most of 80% of the time at least, if not 90% of the time, tried to be, in a sense, I felt like, especially in the writing, that it was joking half the time, which is fine, but at some points it sometimes took itself way too seriously, especially in the writing. Sometimes it felt like, like when Star-Lord saved Gamora out in space, and he's like, "Well, I found something truly heroic in myself," and all that, and they shoved it, they pushed it, which was still funny, but I mean, in a sense, it was that was the essence of the movie that created the chemistry between them. It created barriers. It broke down those barriers at the same time. Like, it was a great chemistry and elaboration. It was amazing. But in this one, I felt like most of the time when they tried to be funny, it just didn't come through because half the movie was so emotional that it's more of a drama than anything else, in my opinion. It is a space opera in its own sense. I mean, if you wanted to call the first one a space opera, this applied a bit more to this one. Um, there was definitely comedy to it, and there was definitely laugh out loud moments, but I mean, I don't think it was built on that. Now, everybody has their own opinion, everybody has their own, way of looking at it. I felt like this was, and people are going to kick me for this one, what Age of Ultron should have been. I enjoyed Age of Ultron, but what they promised, what the character arcs and the story arcs and the character development in the sequel, what was promised in Age of Ultron, I feel like this kind of succeeded that element a bit more. We have two new characters that were introduced in this movie: Kurt Russell's Ego and Mantis. And Kurt Russell's character evolved a lot during the movie. Mantis, I feel like, and this is, by the way, what I felt like for most of the Guardians, has a really not limited screen time, but like divided. Most of the Guardians were all together in the first one, so there was most of the time, so there was not much shifting of focus. In this one, I feel like they're separated a lot. Certain scenarios, circumstances that happen, not going to go into detail, but they all go on different trails, and they have a common goal in its own sense, but it just doesn't work out that way, you know? All these characters evolved a lot throughout the movie. Now, I heard a lot of reviews, and I have to agree that the funniest point of the movie, it does have to be Drax. Um, Groot's character was focused on a little bit more. He became a bit more essential. I felt like, and I think it was elaborated that in the first one, he was usually on the sidelines with Rocket, and his angle wasn't really like explained that much. And honestly, like throughout the promotions and all that, and everybody was at, it was a big thing. Like, if Rocket and Groot are not going to have that kind of connection, what's Rocket going to be up to? And his storyline is actually really well done too. They allowed see, that's the thing. In the first one, I felt like Rocket had this minuscule part of the story that he actually had established. We had a really small like origin to why he is who he is and how he reacts to people and all that. They kind of tapped into that, and this one kind of elaborates on that on a lot of angles and for a lot of characters. I'm not going to say who's who, what's what. That's for you to figure out. I really hope you will enjoy the movie. The soundtrack was, again, amazingly picked out, amazingly chosen. The score by Tyler Bate was, again, stunning, stunning. I'm not even sure which one had the higher budget, but I mean, honestly, this one really takes it out of the ballpark for me because compared to the first one, now looking back, the first one felt like they had like a few set pieces and they were basically running around on that. Half the time they were in the they were captured and they had to escape right in the first one, and this one basically like it's way more open world, way more intense. I felt like it really did it justice. The writing is amazing, the comedy is amazing, the drama is amazing, the storytelling is profound. I cannot wait to see it again. I cannot recommend it anymore any more than I already am. Um, yeah, it did have its flaws. Of course, it had its flaws. The storyline sometimes felt it was choppy. The characters sometimes, some of them I felt like didn't get enough screen time. Some of them got too much screen time. Um, for what they worked with, I think they did the appropriate amount. What else could I say? Most of the character development was actually really, really well done. Now, here's the other thing, and it's not that big of a deal, but I don't feel like this set up Avengers Infinity War as much. It doesn't feel like it anyway. It more like set up Guardians 3, just as much as it's more like a sequel to Guardians 1 than Civil War, I guess. It doesn't really feel like it happened, Like, it doesn't, you can't really feel the impact. Um, it is, of course, still part of the greater cinematic universe, but I felt like it's grounded in its own self, which is kind of amazing. I myself honestly cannot wait to see the connections between the Guardians and the Avengers. Um, I can't wait for Star Lord to go down to Earth and realize how much music has, and I'm not going to say evolved because it hasn't, it has devolved in today's society, and how he's going to react to that. Now, I cannot wait for all these aspects to come to life. It's that's the thing I love about these movies, that these characters, these stories, they all meet, they all branch together, and they really know what they're doing. You can see that out of every single movie that they put out. Um, yeah, honestly, and I got a lot of a lot of people are saying that the MCU's like biggest problem usually is the villain. I liked what they did with the storyline. I have to say, the High Priestess and all that. I mean, yeah, I have my views on that. It was a subplot. It was a nice subplot, but I loved one more thing I'm gonna add. The trailer did not spoil anything to the movie, and I really encourage you guys try not to find any. Try not to go too deep into the internet and all that about this because you're gonna find something that you're not gonna want to find. And I'm saying this because I found myself upon some stuff like that. Like I ran into some spoilers and I wasn't disappointed. I still enjoyed the movie, but go in there expecting, go in there with a fresh mind, be surprised, be astonished. It is what it is. It is an amazing comic book movie, and that is what it is. It's a really fun time with some great storytelling. I actually feel like it really went beyond Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1 to the sense where it has way deeper meaning, storyline, lessons to be learned, connections. I feel like And I still love Guardians 1. It is still one of my favorites. But I have to say, I do recommend this one a bit more. Just a little bit more. Watching them back to back is never, never a bad idea. Anyway, have a good one, guys. Hope you guys enjoy the movie. And looking forward to the next Marvel Cinematic Universe entry, right? Cannot wait for Spider-Man Homecoming and Thor Ragnarok. And then so on. Cannot wait. Have a good one, guys.